The day America's gold was confiscated. Introduction. When we talk about government overreach, we often picture familiar threats: rising taxes, excessive surveillance, or restrictions on free speech. But there is a chilling, often forgotten chapter in American history that reveals a level of financial control that still seems impossible today. In 1933, the U.S. government didn't just raise taxes or expand regulations. It did something far more fundamental. It commanded every citizen to surrender their real money. Not just gold jewelry or decorative items, but the gold coins and bars that families had saved for generations, the very foundation of their wealth. This wasn't a wartime emergency. This was peacetime America, and it was legal. The story of the Great Gold Confiscation is not just a historical footnote. It is a profound lesson in how quickly freedom can be stripped away when crisis meets opportunity, and it reveals a financial playbook that governments still use to control your money today. United States, the Great Gold Confiscation, FDR's financial playbook. The year 1933 saw one of the most astonishing acts of government control in American history: the forced surrender of privately held gold. This action, orchestrated by President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, FDR, was a move that fundamentally restructured the American financial system. Why President Roosevelt banned private gold ownership? The primary reason for banning private gold ownership was to unleash the government's ability to spend and inflate the currency as a response to the Great Depression. To fund the New Deal, Roosevelt wanted to spend massive amounts of money on his New Deal programs to stimulate the economy. To inflate the currency. By increasing the money supply, inflation, the government could make existing debts, both public and private, easier to pay off. To devalue the dollar. A cheaper dollar would make American exports more attractive and competitive on the global market. The anchor problem. As long as paper dollars were directly convertible to gold, the gold supply acted as an anchor that limited how much paper money the government could print. Citizens fleeing fake paper money for real gold were threatening to deplete the government's gold reserves, preventing the needed inflation and spending. By seizing the gold, the government cut this anchor. How Executive Order 6102 changed America's economy forever. Executive Order 6102, signed on April 5, 1933, was a legal mechanism that executed this financial maneuver, forcing citizens to trade their gold for paper money at the official rate of $20.67 per ounce. Its impact was immediate and long-lasting. Criminalized private wealth. It became a federal crime for any American to own more than 5 ounces of gold, with severe penalties: a $10,000 fine, over $200,000 in today's money, and up to 10 years in prison. Enabled devaluation. Once the government had collected the majority of the nation's private gold, they enacted Phase 2, the Gold Reserve Act of 1934. This officially devalued the dollar by raising the price of gold from $20.67 to $35 per ounce, a nearly 40% devaluation. Shift to fiat money. This action effectively decoupled the everyday citizen from the gold standard, paving the way for a system where the government could print currency at will, leading to an explosion in the money supply between 1933 and 1940. This shift is the basis of our modern, purely fiat currency system, where money is backed only by government promise. The hidden motives behind the Great Gold Confiscation. The script suggests the confiscation was not just an economic strategy, but a calculated power move executed through a specific playbook for financial control. Legal theft and wealth transfer. The core sinister motive was the immediate profit. Americans were forced to sell their gold at $20.67, and then the government immediately repriced it to $35. This difference of nearly $14 per ounce was a massive, government-sanctioned wealth transfer straight into the federal treasury, funding Roosevelt's programs. Propaganda and patriotism. The government's propaganda machine recast the act of surrendering savings as a patriotic duty and condemned hoarding as unpatriotic, leveraging social pressure to ensure compliance. Surveillance and selective enforcement. The government used federal agents to raid safe deposit boxes and encourage citizens to become informants by reporting neighbors, creating a climate of fear and financial surveillance. Furthermore, the exemptions for jewelers, dentists, and industrial users and coin collectors showed that the order protected the wealthy and connected while targeting the savings of the ordinary citizen. Balance scale the resistance. Legal battles and hidden gold. The government's heavy hand did not go unchallenged. Despite the crushing penalties, there was significant public resistance and legal pushback to the order. Defiance in courts. Numerous individuals and businesses fought the confiscation, arguing it was an unconstitutional taking of private property. These cases, notably involving individuals like Frederick Barber Campbell, who was arrested for refusing to surrender his gold bars, challenged the executive branch's authority. While the Supreme Court ultimately upheld the government's action in a series of cases, the legal fight demonstrated that many Americans saw the order as a violation of fundamental rights. The holdouts. Despite the threats, prison sentences, and social pressure, some Americans absolutely refused to surrender their gold. These were not just criminals. They were citizens who recognized that surrendering their savings to the government was financial suicide. They buried it in backyards, hid it in walls, or smuggled it across state lines. These holdouts who kept their gold preserved their wealth through the Depression and beyond, proving that resistance to unconstitutional financial controls paid off when private gold ownership was finally allowed again in 1974. How this event still affects your money today. The legacy of a 1933 gold confiscation is the very foundation of today's monetary system and the tactics governments use during a crisis. Financial dependence. The event stripped the American population of their ability to hold a form of money that was completely outside of government control. By convincing people that digits on screens are just as real as metal in hand, the government fostered a culture of financial dependence on government-issued paper promises. The blueprint for control. The tactics used, declaring an emergency, restricting access through banking controls, the bank holiday, creating social pressure, and implementing surveillance, are a playbook that the script warns is still relevant today to justify financial controls and sacrifices. Inflation as the norm. The action created a monetary system free from the gold anchor, making inflation a permanent feature of the economy. The rise in prices for goods and services described in the script is a direct result of an inflated money supply, a reality that persists today. Conclusion. The gold confiscation of 1933 was more than just a policy decision. It was a lesson in how a government can rapidly restructure a nation's financial soul. The most chilling part isn't what happened to the gold, but what happened to the American mind. A population that had been raised on the security of real money was convinced, in a matter of months, that government promises were more reliable than physical wealth. The Americans who defied the order and buried their gold understood a crucial principle that their neighbors missed. When the government demands your real money, it's because they plan to destroy the paper money they're giving you in return. Every time you hear that your savings are safe, that inflation is temporary, or that financial controls are for your protection, remember 1933. The methods used then haven't disappeared. They've simply been refined. History doesn't repeat itself, but if you don't learn from it, it will crush you. The only question is, when the system inevitably fails, will you be holding paper promises or something real?